I'll start off by saying this is Mike, and after that, I don't even have to talk to the camera.
Okay.
So.
But do you want to ask the question?
So
Just to make sure,
So what do you think happens after we die, and how did you get to your belief about it?
Sure. Well, I don't think anything happens after we die. And how did I get to this belief? I don't know that there was a single moment. Obviously, growing up, I was not going to church regularly. That was the tradition that my parents had. Growing up, and for whatever reason, as they came into adulthood, they were either busy or they didn't. They were sort of rebelling against that sort of that tradition that they were brought up under.
Okay.
And myself, as far as the way I see life is, I don't think that there's anything after the life we have right now, and that's why it's precious, and why we have to make use of our time wisely and live in a manner that we can look back on our lives without regrets. So that's sort of, I think it's just in a way you're forced to think. I feel like you're forced to think that way, because otherwise, you're going about, if you want to push yourself to sort of achieve something in your lifetime, whatever it might be, whatever your goals are, if you want to be a great dancer or a sports, an athlete or a teacher or whatever you want to do, right? You have to realize that these are the stakes. I've got one shot at doing this, and when it's over, it's over, and and obviously people, they have a family to continue their legacy, and to shape their family and the way they believe that a human being should live, right? So you teach your children how to be a good human being.
You want to leave a good legacy.
Well, because even if you're not there, somebody's there continuing your way of life, or you hope so, but typically children don't live the same kind of lives that their parents do, because they see the problems their parents, they maybe neglect to see some of the strengths of their parents' lifestyles, and they focus on the problems that their parents had, so then they try to go in a slightly different trajectory. Maybe they check off some of the boxes, they did things better than their parents did, but then they also do something that's not quite as well as what their parents did. So they have new problems. They may have resolved the problems they saw. For example, at least in my growing up, my parents have been together. They never divorced. Maybe more modern people would have divorced based on the amount of issues that they have in their marriage. And so and I see the way that that's affected me and my sisters, as far as I feel like the three of us in our relationships have much stronger just communication or trust with our spouse than maybe our parents did. And it probably resulted from seeing the issues that our parents went through and saying, we don't want that hanging over our family and our lives, so we're going to choose this other type of person and a different type of relationship from what our parents had.
Do you think on that basis, do you think humanity in general is constantly improving?
That's really hard to say. I mean, there's so much that's written off as improvement, which, social good it's not, written into what is considered improvement. These things we have now.
Right.
It's convenience. It's definitely, you just came up here and I was on my computer and again, and this is in the mainstream, what people say is they have the power to bring us together but also take us apart. For example, let's say you're a person now and you have this computer and you could be at any moment in time, and sometimes it's distracting. Let's say you want to spend time with your family or friends, and it's just really hard to put it down. And even if you just look at it every couple minutes, you're trying to hold a conversation with your friends, and every moment, time you look down and you come back up, you kind of been taken out of what they're doing. But okay, now let's flip it around. Let's say, this has also enabled people to be work from home, moms and dads. So you can spend more time with the family, or you can spend less time with the family. So it's really about how you use it. So, I don't know that humanity has really improved.
Just gotten more
and also even with the way we look at, let's say political correctness or whatever, it's a muscle that we're training. I don't know that it's really ingrained in people, you should be nicer to people. It's more it's taboo to be impolite.
They'll go viral on you.
But I feel niceness, I suppose there is something to be said for the value that's attached to human life, because once upon a time, 100 years ago, people were dying much more frequently during birth or sickness, and so you kind of had to write it off as there was less permanence attached to life. People were also living longer, shorter lifespans, right? Now people are living longer, and so we take it for granted that we're like all going to live into our 80s. So maybe in a way, we like our expectations for, oh, this is how my life should be lived. I think other people should also have those, whether it's material possessions or time off. Obviously, we're not working at crazy hours and terrible conditions. The most people, in the advanced, world.
That's interesting. Do you think our confidence that we will most likely live to be 80 affects our relations, our spiritual beliefs? Like, I don't want to give an example, but I'm just saying, like from what you know about 100 years ago, people believed they could die any day. From an illness. Now we have a pretty good idea that unless we get hit by a bus or something, we're
pretty much more pretty. I mean, it allows you to make long-term plans. That's a hard question to answer. And obviously, I'm sure the role of church, I think, and the religion in the world has changed because, at one point in time, church was obviously it was a source of, it still is, but not as prevalent as it once was, a source of community for people in your neighborhood. Everybody goes, you're the same, you're the same nationality or the same color or the same race. You're also the same faith. You go to the same church. Your views are more influenced. And it also is a sort of a source of news, right? It's how to process this information that's coming from the outside world. The church is helping you, and it's also political in that way. At least that's the way I see it. But now we have you have Google answers your questions about why is the sky blue, right? And things like that. So I feel and I'm trying to remember exactly what your question was just now. But
so the question is more how is, I guess we're talking talking about technology and the fact that it gives us more confidence in living along. And does that affect maybe we're not so worried about death, or have these questions about what's going to happen?
I mean, I don't think anybody wants to really contemplate their death,
right? And
it's not really productive to think about it for too long either, because it's a train coming of one day.
It is.
And if you're really far, even if you're not that old, you probably, if you're still in your, if you're in your 70s now, you're thinking, maybe before I get to my 90s, they'll come out with something and they can expand my life for another 20 years. I think everybody has that little negative hope in them. Nobody wants to, unless you're bedridden and you really know that you've got some incurable disease. Most people just kind of it's just human nature to think that you're going to live forever.
And even procrastinate, worrying about ultimate things, until.
Well, I mean, even in your 80s, you're not gonna, because why would you wouldn't want, unless you're maybe have some other instability, you might have issues with depression or whatnot, right? Maybe you contemplate that more. But I think a healthy human being would do everything. Everything in your psyche is trying to prevent you from contemplating those issues more than you need to. You think about it from maybe a strategic standpoint, my will, who is going to inherit my thing or something. But you're not really going to think you're not going to sit around and think, oh, I'm going to be dead one day. I mean, I suppose, but only if you're forced to. If you're that you're really sick and it's unlikely that you're going to come through a procedure or illness contract.
I also want to ask you, it's got me thinking when you talk about church as a community, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want, but where would you say you find that sense of community in life? Family.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, friends are friends and friends come and go. Luckily, I have family, and for people who don't have a big family, maybe they need to find it other places. So they either try friends. Friends might not be as, it depends who your friends are. They're more reliable.
Are you from around here? Or?
I'm from Chicago. I mean, I've got two sisters, and they're married and they've got kids. And my parents live just over the border in Indiana. I don't see them all the time, but I think it's if I didn't have I don't think about them all the time. but I see somebody in my family like once every week or a week and a half or 2 weeks.
And then is like social media like something that keeps you connected with family too, or not so much?
I mean, to some extent, you know, for example, my sisters have kids, they post pictures on Facebook, and I'm like, oh, you guys did this. But what connects you really is spending time with them.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what they're doing in their lives, but that's not really connecting because they're doing it without you.
Right.
It's like, you know, maybe you can connect. You like, you know, like, oh, they like this, so they would also like to do this, and it would give you an idea. Like, oh, my nephews like to go. I didn't know. Oh, they like to go like on roller coasters. I didn't know that. I thought they're too scared. Okay, like, what's going on? I mean, if you care about your family, you probably also follow them on Facebook because you want to know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because it does fill in the picture.
So it helps. You see it as like a tool.
Yeah.
But it's not replacing that sense.
You certainly couldn't just have Facebook and no contact.
Yeah.
It just helpful. I previously lived in China for a couple of years.
Oh.
You know, at that point in time, like, and actually one of the reasons I moved back was because I wanted to be closer to family.
Okay.
So, you know, it's hard when you're like long distance, and I'm not the best person at like staying in touch with phone calls or emails or whatever. And you know, my family's, especially my sisters, because they've got young kids, that you know they're busy. So
yeah,
a lot of times, you know, sometimes a month or two, even more goes by, and I'm like, oh, I probably should call, you know, so and so.
Yeah.
You know, except for my dad, who just calls me like, you know, every like 10 days or so, just to check in.
Yeah.
But,
can I ask you, like, so you, I guess I'm guessing that along with not believing that anything happens after we die, would you say you don't believe in God or a higher power? Or?
You know, I mean, there's a lot of questions about how is like why this universe exists, like in the middle of who knows where.
Yeah.
It's pretty mystical, but I wouldn't think of it certainly not in the kind of God that we like learn about in the Bible and the story. I mean, it's certainly very like, how are these people like on this planet that's spinning around in space?
So the questions are out there as far as.
Well, it's just strange, like why does anything exist at all? Like,
yeah,
you know, it's just nobody's ever really answered that question. I mean, unless you can somehow. But yeah, I mean, I don't know that that's. I think that you know, being like the values that are you know espoused by religion are good. You know, as far as like taking, you know, how you should treat others, how you should conduct yourself, and things like that. So I think, you know, there's always going to be a place for it. But like I said, you know, the role that obviously religion once played in the world, you know, being very like expansive.
Yeah.
You know, and then the state kind of took over a lot of those powers that were once shared between the state and the church, and also because of, you know, like I'm saying, information and you know, if you feel like believing now, it's a different way of believing than you're believing in religion because you know the power of like the community or like what a church and you know can do to like help people who are in need, versus like just kind of blanketing the religion on everybody. You know, because I think it is, again, it's like something that people can come back to maybe when they need it. Yeah. Like I was kind of going back, you know, for example, like if I didn't have a family, maybe I would be looking for something more, like if I was in work or whatever it might be, like I might be looking for something more permanent.
Maybe when you were in China, were you at all going through like culture shock or feeling like?
I mean, I had a girlfriend, I had friends, so it was like I still had my community. I came back every, you know, like half a year or so.
Yeah. So not so much.
Suppose, I guess I found my whatever I needed to get by in other places.
Yeah. Did you ever believe in God or have a faith?
I don't think so. No. Not really.
And it sounds like were your parents Catholic or?
Yeah.
And pretty nominally Catholic, like maybe.
I mean, my dad's Polish. You know, probably when he was growing up, he was like an altar boy. I think he probably had a negative experience, but having to go to church all the time. And he grew up in Poland. You know, it's a very Catholic society.
Yeah.
And he just wasn't interested. You know, once he became an adult, and he didn't want to continue that.
Yeah.
You know, my aunt is actually, you know, my aunt and my grandfather, who were also Polish. They're very, you know, to this day, they're still very involved in the church.
Yeah.
It was sort of more, you know, my parents, they're like kind of more the artsy side.
Okay. guess
they weren't interested in doing that.
I like what you were saying about like you learn from your parents and you kind of improve on it. It's like you see their weaknesses, and so you kind of like try harder in that area so that you don't make this, like make the same mistake. I do believe it could happen both ways as far as like with religion is concerned. Is they could, so they're kind of nominally, they probably, if you ask them, they would say they believe, right? But they just don't live it out.
I doubt it.
Idea.
I doubt it.
Like even believe in God or anything like that?
Probably not.
Oh, okay. I'm just not sure.
I don't know if I'm gonna give you the answers.
No, I'm just
this is reality, right?
Yeah, because one thing that's always hard to see is people being hypocritical. So like if someone says they believe in the church and they believe in God, but then they don't go, it's like, okay, do you really?
Yeah. No,
and
they never. We've never had a conversation with God. I don't believe my parents believe in God.
Oh, okay.
Certainly not in the. Whatever. I feel like everybody's kind of concept of what religion or what God is maybe a little bit different, but
do you think so? One reason, like we kind of like touched on this of believing in religion or God is to have a afterlife. Like.
Do you think that's important?
Well, what I was going to ask you is,
I feel like that's not important.
Yeah, and another reason is to have community. So like church, So my question was going to be, and we could talk about whether it's important or not, but do you think there might be another reason to be involved in religion? Other than community and like the sense of shared belief, or the sense of hope for eternity, that kind of thing. I'm just wondering what you think.
Well, I'm interested to know what you think. And I don't know. Let me give you an answer, and then I'd like to bounce this question back at you.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, I think that it could be helpful to, for church, for bringing people together to achieve goals. So mobilizing, let's say, I don't know, helping something in the community, improving the lives of not just, I guess, whether you want to call it spreading the work of God or goodwill towards
practical
other
good work. It sounds like you're talking about social,
basically, if there's some issue in the community and through the church, mobilizing that community, people who are part of what's it called?
The local congregation.
The congregation, and with that, using their networks and sort of as if there's an issue, and if their point of view is aligned with the larger community, then that would be a good place to start by getting support for whatever issue.
Well, if there's a disaster in the neighborhood, or a fire, hopefully the church would organize to help people.
Yeah, or even things slightly more political. Developments or parks or whatever it might be, supporting things that the church, and if the church represents the community closely, right, that they would have the same point of view, we think this would be good for our neighborhood or for our community.
And a church might accomplish things that, say, a family group doesn't, because the family isn't organized around, the biblical text says we should be, caring for the poor and the oppressed, that sort of thing. And so that's the official, belief of the church. So we should do something.
So what do you feel like in this day and age, our churches are the primary roles of the church in religion?
For me, as a Christian, when I read the Bible, one of the things that pops out at me is that God is glorifying himself through his creation. And so it's not so much, am I interested in Christianity for my own sake, as far as, am I going to go to heaven or hell? Now, if I thought I was going to go to hell, I would, I don't want to go there, but what I do hear a lot of people saying is, well, let's just live life for life's sake. Let's live in the present. Don't worry about the future. Let that take care of itself. This is, like you were saying, this is all we've got, kind of thing. Is it more noble to live for a future goal or to live for just the good of the present? You know. And I think it's possible to say, you know what, I'm living. I don't need the reward of heaven or the punishment of hell to get me to do good. I'm going to be a good person and make a difference in this world without all that. And so, actually, I don't know if you consider yourself an atheist, but a lot of atheists say that, good for goodness sake. Probably, I don't know if you've heard that. They actually have a billboard that says, there is no God. We're good for goodness sake, or however. And so there's this perception that Christianity and basically all religions, all they're worried about is what's going to happen when we die, and can I make sure I go to heaven? To me, I can't. Like you were saying, like there's some ultimate questions. Where does the universe come from? What started it? Like I can't escape my belief that God exists. It's like I look around and I see creation, and I know there was a creator. So then the question is, well, what am I going to do about it? Am I going to honor the creator or live for myself and basically dishonor the creator? And so to me, the ultimate question is, am I going to live for God or not? Not necessarily what's going to happen, what's in it for me, but am I going to honor my creator? And for people to organize around biblical principles and show unity and do good works, that's honoring to our creator. And so it's a part of it, it's like a subset of it. For people to want to be with their creator forever, honoring him forever, as opposed to just being on their own, and doing their own thing, that's honoring to God. And so to me, like that other reason for just having a faith in religion is to honor our creator, to honor God, So I don't know if that answers.
It's like, okay, so like, and I living in China, I think it's interesting to talk to people from China because they're not, they don't grow up with this tradition of Christianity.
No.
So you have to think about it from like, it's really like, if you're trying to explain these issues, like saying that there's a God who created things and coming up with some like scientific explanation, it's kind of like the same. Like it doesn't really make sense like why there's a God. It's not something that just like and I think this is maybe the issue that a lot of people have with religion is like you need people to explain to you why it works for you to understand. Like it should be self-evident. It's not self-evident that there is a God or whatever. I feel like it should be self-evident that you should be kind to other people. That we should work towards having a life. Obviously these are teachings. These are things I think that could come from. I mean, in a way, like the teachings of the Bible kind of they come from human nature. It's like, how can we basically like, people are like shooting people, all the time and like stealing things and like living in a more equitable way, right? So like those things are self-evident, but the fact that like everything was created by a person, it's sort of, I mean, obviously it's an explanation for what we see. Is the way I see it, and there's other things that also, it's because we're now living in this age where a lot of things are getting explained one at a time. So, people are just waiting for an explanation, like the scientific explanation of like how the world started, how the universe began. But again, like I think that the things that what is the teachings of the Bible, many of them are self-evident as far as again. How human beings should interact with one another and observe themselves. So those kind of things, I think, I'm kind of getting off topic a little bit here. But I think those will always exist in some shape or form. Whether or not it's, and different people will latch onto this because they see like, how are we going to uphold sort of like our moral fabric? That's how you want to put it. And there's probably, I don't know what atheists do exactly. But obviously the church is one solution to that. And it's kind of, it is, I think it is important to realize that like the world can still go backwards. We shouldn't just expect that it's necessary. It doesn't take a lot for people to become uneducated,
right,
and not sort of morally unstable. I don't think it takes as long as people like realize. All it takes is a couple generations of people they don't go to school. If something goes wrong and people stop going to school and stop learning it. I think learning history is an important thing too. Just in general, like being a good citizen.
It'd be interesting, like, to know the trajectory of your own family. Like, if you had faithful, God-fearing, church-attending grandparents back in Poland, and then they have children. The children don't see much reason for it, so they don't observe it at all. And who knows what they actually believe? Maybe they do believe in God, maybe not. But then you're like, now you're another step removed from that faithful. You know what I'm saying? What do you?
I
feel like you're part of a trajectory of some sort.
I don't really know. I mean, this is like a worldwide trend. It's like attendance at churches, like in my parents' generation, everybody went to church.
And for some of those other reasons,
you know the reasons better than I do why people like less and less people are going to church. I imagine by now it's probably stabilized. Maybe it's growing. I don't really know what the numbers are, but those numbers are out there. Somebody knows, and I'm sure that people who the pastors in the church, they all know.
I think there was probably a lot of people going for a lot of reasons other than
they didn't go because
religion.
They really believed. They went for the fear and kind of also tradition.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's other things I was talking about, like community, and now. I don't know. I can get like there's. I'm not the best person to talk about. A lot of people are better informed than us.
Well, prestige status,
Yeah, I mean, it was like that was your social club. Like church, church was a lot of things. It wasn't just religion. Whereas now, I feel like probably the church is actually, even though it might be, less people going to church, they're probably more devout. In a way,
I'm kind of thinking. So
that would be what I would expect. And if I were to have to choose a way, I would prefer. Sort of the be good for goodness sake, approach, because the other ones don't motivate me. Not so much. They either don't convince me or they don't motivate me. I don't know that I really need that as a motivator. I think it's good for people to hold you accountable, which I suppose church does that. Because you're like the people you work with or you meet with, your congregation. Because if there's not like somebody who's kind of like reminding you to do good, then maybe you won't do good. But people like their freedom. So you got a problem there. And that's the thing, is like people who had bad things happen to them in their life, or who they want to get back. Like let's say bad things that happen, and now, especially if the church has helped them get through a difficult time in life, they feel, regardless of how devout or how strong their belief is, they see the importance of doing good and providing this service, right? So,
what I heard you saying was one of the things that has kept you from belief. Well, your experience in China was.
Oh yeah, that was
just the idea that it's not. What was the term you used? Self-evident. So.
You just think about it, we all, a lot of, even if you haven't gone, I'm just one removed from the generation that, of church, we're going to church every Sunday.
Yeah. And
businesses not being, even when I was growing up, a lot of things were closed on Sunday. You couldn't do things. Yeah. Businesses were closed, right? Or they whatever. That's all fallen away. Yeah. Mostly. I mean, it depends. It depends if you're in a different county or a different state.
Oh, yeah.
There are places, you're dry. From certain, I don't know what it is. They're first of all, there's dry counties, but there's also you go to certain smaller communities and everything's closed. So that's just becoming church has become less mainstream.
Oh, definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I was saying, but I'm just a generation removed from when it was mainstream, so I kind of understand what it was. But if you have to go somewhere where they don't come from that tradition at all, you have to start from scratch.
Yeah.
So I guess actually, in a way, it could be. you know, it's like, it's just like imagine somebody's like trying to, you know, throw like another religion on you, like Islam. How would you react?
Yeah, I know. I would be like, well, I pretty much made up my mind. I'm Christian, and
right? So
I'm
these
not
people,
really interested.
You know, maybe if they're curious, they'll. But to them, it's still gonna be like, nah, that's not, you know, that wasn't happening. My life, you know, it's just, you understand. It's not
I guess what I'm wondering though is, do you think for a religion to be valid in your mind, would it need to be evident, self-evident to like almost like a universal, like everybody thinks the same way? Like there needs to be something that all people have in common that attracts, you know, that they just naturally know about this religion, or they don't need someone to tell them about it, or they don't need to read about it. They just kind of like, I think that's what you mean by self-evident, that you just kind of like naturally, because some of the things you were mentioning were like
basically like the teaching should draw
from
human nature. Right?
Yeah.
You know, and I think what scares people off is like when you get too much into like talking about like Jesus or God or whatever, and then it's like,
it's very exclusive, or it's very,
because it's like, it's too easy for people to, like, that's what turns their brains off. If you say all this happened because of God, I'm like, yeah, I really believe that. And a lot of people are going to feel the same way, you know, because they're like, you know, the majority, a lot of people don't believe in that. So, but if you focus on like the parts that people will be like turned on to like let's just go volunteer because we want to help people. You know? Like we don't care about making this extra like money. Like we're going to take time off from work, or we're like, do you know, those kind of things. I understand that like you need something, like you feel like you need like glue to bind it together.
Yeah.
But you know, and I know that probably different congregations and different pastors, they'll have different, like, you know, like the way they talk about it. Religion is different, you know, how they talk about it, and you know, that's important. And I think, you know, going forward, you know, turning people on, that's what you want, like, you know, getting them involved, right?
So it's kind of like finding those universal human traits and building on that.
I guess
something that everyone.
Yeah, I think that's, you know, like I think religion will always exist in some shape or form. And that's kind of what you have to like go on, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, like basically, it's really simple. Like, what would you prefer people to do to you? You know, like how do you want to be treated?
Right.
You know, and if you're in need, do you want people to come to your aid, right? So you know, I feel like everybody would agree with that. Like, oh yeah, I would need help. You know, if I like, you know, my spouse died, or we got fired, or we just moved from another country, or whatever it might be, like you have this kind of like large, insurmountable thing in your path, like you're trying to get through it, and so you need some help from the exterior to help you. But obviously, it's hard to get. I guess you need the glue to keep people together somehow.
I guess just to kind of, in answer to that, I would say that Christianity does teach this whole idea that there is a universal human need, and then it teaches there's a specific answer. So the need would be, in the very beginning of Christianity, it talks about, you know, the foundation of the earth, and God being the creator, and man being created, and then man having this choice, you know, a moral choice: am I going to obey God or not? The whole forbidden fruit thing, Adam and Eve, and it talks about the result of their choosing to do things against God and go their own way. Even for something as small as disobeying on eating from one tree when there's all these other trees to eat from, right? So they eat from this tree, and then it says their eyes were open, they know good from evil. And so the universal trait that everyone would share is this sense of right and wrong, this conscience. You know, it's so ever since then, people have had a conscience, according to the Bible, that we all may like differ according to our parental upbringing, or our society might say it's okay to have more than one wife, but they all say you shouldn't commit adultery, you know. So it's a general sense of right and wrong. Different religions have different ideas of about the specifics, but they all would agree that there's a general sense of good behavior and bad behavior, and the fact that we keep coming up with excuses it is kind of evidence that we feel accountable to someone, you know, and so I think even atheists.
What do you mean excuses?
Why we don't follow it. You know,
Okay.
so it's like we know the right thing to do, but then we say, but you know, in this case, I just told a white lie, you know. It's okay. I didn't want to hurt her feelings, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
Like we
Well, I mean,
come
I
up with
guess
different
our
reasons.
right from wrong, again, it goes back to like, what do your parents teach you?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
You
is,
know, well, and like so, you know, before it was what do your parents teach you and what does your church tell you? And they're probably more or less the same, right? Unless you don't have parents, you don't have a church. So, you know.
But like, even the idea, like what you were saying, treat others as you want to be treated, would be more like a universal part of that conscience.
Yeah,
you know.
I guess so. Yeah.
And so the Bible teaches that it's a God-given conscience, that we all have a conscience. We all have the same problem, is that we break it. You know, that we don't do what we know we should do. We don't treat others as we want to be treated, you know, all the time. Sometimes we do, you know, but all too often we don't. And so the different religions, now they try to solve that problem in specific means, and they contradict each other, you know. So Christianity has a specific mean, and that is, you know, through a Savior, Jesus, you know. Others, and so for me, just to kind of let you know my thinking on the whole thing is if we all have the same problem, but there's different solutions, which one of those solutions would be, you know, would stand out from the rest? You know, how is it different? And
you'd have to do a lot of research.
Well,
like how different religions.
And I would
talk about these issues.
I would really encourage you to do that. If you check all the different religions, they're basically saying if you're a good enough person, if your good outweighs your bad, if you have good karma, more good karma than bad karma, or you know, like even Hinduism that, you know, might say there's a better life for you, you get reincarnated in a higher being or a lower being, you know, there's judgment. And so the only one that says we could never do enough good, because the good we do, we ought to do anyway, which to me makes sense. You know, I didn't give myself my energy or my health or my time. I believe it came from God. I have to start with that basic belief that God exists. I can't, you know, like I say, I can't see any other options. But once I deal with that, it's like, how am I going to honor my Creator? I should do good, and I can't do the good that I ought to do, or I can't use the good I ought to do to pay for the bad that I ought not to do. And so if God says there are some things that you shouldn't do, and I've done them anyway, then I'm basically bankrupt. I can't pay for the bad I've done with the good I ought to do. Other religions would say you can't, that you can, you know, kind of like build it up and build up your karma or whatever and earn a better life. And so that's why Christianity has a savior. It's basically God taking the responsibility and saving us and allowing us to live a life of gratitude rather than a life of obligation where we have to do enough good to pay for our bad. So that's, as a Christian, I would say that's the one thing that makes Christianity, it's like kind of a key thing. It's the key thing that makes Christianity unique among all the religions, is it's not a works-based religion. It's basically saying we can't earn our way to...
You said it, not a what-based religion?
It's not a works-based. It's not like you don't have to do enough good work to kind of earn a better afterlife. and so the gratitude comes in and saying, I want to honor my Creator. You know, it's not so much I want to go to heaven.
It doesn't make sense why they'd be natural. This is what I'm going to make. Like it's it's not self-evident, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, people see other animals die, other things die, trees, plants die.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
They're dead, very dead. And you know, I think that's actually a better motivator than
that there's nothing.
There's nothing, yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, make use of it, and people might make use of it to be greedy and try to hoard as much, you know, money or women or drugs, and whatever.
Yeah, and some people would say that it cheapens life that way, because then you think, well, I'll do what I can while I'm alive, because it doesn't matter after I go. You know, like no one's gonna really.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
As a matter of fact, we won't even, if it's true, we won't even have the satisfaction of looking back and feeling proud of ourselves, because we like lights out, and then we won't even realize we were right, you know, or wrong. You know,
it's more people choose. They choose. I guess you choose if you wanna. What kind of lifestyle you want to live?
Yeah. So I want to honor your time. I thank you. I asked for 5 minutes.
I know we talked a little.
I'm sorry about that.
No, I mean it's always good to have a conversation.
Yeah, I would love for just to leave you with the idea that there could be more to religion than just heaven or hell or community.
Mm-hmm.
There could be the idea of honoring our Creator, and that's what I believe Christianity is very different. You know. As far as I'm not like working so hard to be able to go to heaven and say, look at me, I'm such a good person, I made it to heaven. It's more like, no, Jesus took the punishment I deserve, and so I want to give him, and you know, Christianity teaches he's the Son of God, so it's like I want to give my Creator, God, in Jesus, the Trinity. You know,
yeah.
So it's like I want to honor God rather than it's all about me, you know. So fair enough.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to meet you.
I appreciate it.
Your name is
Jeff. Yeah. And I have a card that'll show you the web, because what I do is I.
Did you edit these? I assume.
I don't edit them. I just post it, but I'll take something that we talked about and probably write about it and relate it to the Bible. So I don't like write about the whole conversation. I just I let it inspire me. Yeah. Because I like to write. That's what I really like.
What is your role in the church? Are you just?
I've been going there for quite a while.
Are you from Chicago?
I'm actually from Minnesota. Okay. I've been living here for almost 30 years.
Okay. Welcome. 30 years.
Yeah. And I'm a high school teacher, so I just got off work. And
what is this like? Are you public school or are you private school?
Public.
So you just second day?
Yeah.
How's it going?
Great. Last year,
what do you teach?
History. Last year was my first year, and it really went. It took probably 3 months to figure out what's the best way to teach my class at this particular school, because it's an alternative high school.
What's that mean?
Kids have kind of like failed, regular high school, and for different reasons.
Yeah.
Drama at the, home, or pregnancy, or
is it
drugs.
In the neighborhood or where's it?
Back of the arts.
Okay.
It's like
this sort of South Loop section.
No, it's actually like we're on 31st. It would be on 55th. So it's almost to Englewood. Yeah.
Actually, there's a segue. So this is maybe something you might know. I've been interested in I want to do some work kind of like part-time, like teaching high school students about personal finance. That's something I think is important that most